conference, but like I said, there's probably about 8 teams that can win this thing, is the Utah Utes. Longtime listeners know I'm a big Kyle Whittingham fan. I've been on about this guy for a very long time. We've sort of highlighted just how big of an advantage they have at home. Just to bring that home for maybe the newer folks, 31-2 in their last 33 games, 60-20 since they joined the Pac-12 in 2011 at home. It is one of the best home field advantages in college football. He has a staff that has stayed together. They named the DC Morgan Scaley as the coach in waiting. Andy Ludwig is back again at OC. Over under set at 9.5. More importantly, Cam Rising looks healthy. Reports seem to be that he's healthy. You watch the spring game, he looked healthy. That's massive for him. And this team as a whole, because he is surrounded by arguably the most talented roster he's had offensively in his time at Utah. The concern will be, what does his, reintroduction look like, I guess. But from the spring game, and you need to take spring games with a grain of salt here. They can scheme things up to look better than they are. But you have to be happy about that as a Utah Ute. You lose Jackson in the running back room, but I don't have a ton of concern because they seem to be doing this by a running back by committee. And the guys they have in Bernard and Glover are good. They're going to pick up the torch. Running back by committee, I think, is fair there. I think they're going to get good production out of those running backs. The wide receiver tight end room is awesome, I think. And this is where you go, this is probably the most talented they've had in Cam Rising's time there. Brent Kuthey's coming back from injury, but you've got some other pieces there in case his transition back doesn't go great. You've got Carson Ryan. You've got Landon King. They feel pretty good about that room. I feel pretty good about that room. But if Brent Kuthey can come back strong, woo, tight end position's looking nice for them. Wide receiver, though, you've got Singer from USC. You've got Alfred from Syracuse, who was incredibly productive for Syracuse in his time there. You've got Lyons from Washington. Now, this is the guy that's flying under the radar because he didn't play a ton, but you have to remember that was a wide receiver room loaded. All 3 guys are in the NFL right now. So he's a 4-star kid in the 2023 class. He was in that incredibly deep, incredibly competitive 3 NFL caliber wide receiver room. He's coming over. You got Monty Parks, who returns 9.5 yards per reception last season. This is a really, really solid room for them. It's incredibly talented. The O-line is going to be a question mark for them. They've got 2 young tackles they're big fans of. They think they're high upside guys, and have been showing really well in their time in the program. But there are some question marks on the Utah offensive line. But this is, once again, I have no problem giving the benefit of the doubt to the Utah staff, because Kyle Whittingham has a proven track record. Utah has a proven track record of being able to develop guys. This is a developmental program. This isn't a win now solely through the transfer portal, getting big time recruits. No, this is, we're getting good, solid players. We work with them, we develop them, and we have great teams year in and year out. And that's what you have here again, I think, on the offensive side of the football. The defense, which has been their calling card for years, and where you always give the benefit of the doubt. It's usually their best unit, but it is always the definition. Like, Utah is the definition of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, because you look at the team every year on paper and you go, man, I just don't know about this defense. And then every year by the end of the season, they're one of the most respected defenses in the country, and they're absolutely fantastic. D-line returns 7 of the top 8 defensive linemen. The hope is for guys like Logan Fanu to come back really strong from his ACL. You've got Fillinger is really solid. O'Toole is someone Utah fans will probably be familiar with because he showed up really nicely late last season for them. So they have some really good pieces on the defensive line. Linebacker is interesting. You've got Landon Barton. He missed time last season, but he has lived up to the hype. I mean, in 2022, he was the Pac-12 Freshman Defensive Player of the Year, a freshman All-American. He's a top 5 recruit all time in Utah history. And he'll have his partner in crime back in Karen Reed. So they felt good about this group because they added nobody through the portal here. They've been pretty steadfast in that this is a talented linebacking room. They have no issues here. They feel that if they do sustain an injury here, they have some depth too to cover that up. So that's great for Utah. The secondary is interesting. You have Vaughn, who's a former walk-on turned all Pac-12 conference cornerback, back again for this season. You have Johnson from Ja Tech, who is a super senior, nice little piece. Smith Soden looked good last year in his freshman year. At safety, you have Toe Johnson, who's going to step up at safety here, I think, for them. This is a secondary last year, too, that faced just a gauntlet of quarterbacks in the Pac-12, an elite talent at quarterback. They're not facing that this year. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water, run to the bathroom there. Doesn't have a overwhelming schedule of quarterbacks that scare you like last year's schedule. You still get Shador on there, but you have no Kansas State on the schedule. You got Fafita down in Arizona, but we'll see and talk about Arizona here in a minute. So this isn't like a gauntlet of quarterbacks you're facing. You're going to get KJ Jefferson last game of the season. Who knows if he'll still even be available at that point? Because they play Baylor, Utah State, Oklahoma State, Arizona State, TCU, Houston, BYU, Colorado, Iowa State, and UCF. Like, this is a very winnable schedule that they should pretty much dominate as long as they keep the injury health. There isn't that quarterback threat that they had last year in the Pac-12 that was just loaded with incredibly good quarterback play. So I feel really good about Utah. They are the team, I think, that comes in deservingly so as the favorites to win the conference. So I have no issues with them being power rated as number one. They are my power rated number one team in the conference, and I feel very good about Utah. From Utah,